Oh, Brill, thanks. Thanks, see ya. So tell the truth. Did you see your favourite YouTuber harvesting apples from trees and then go out and buy a tree, and now you don't know what to do with it? Come on then. First thing first, don't just leave it in the house. You kind of need to deal with it straight away. Let's cover the basics then. My trees are what's called a cordon apple tree or a columnar apple tree, or you'll see them as patio apple trees. It basically means the fruiting part grows on a single stem straight, or you can angle it, you can train it to grow how you want, but essentially it grows that one single stem, and all of the little spurs, the bits that actually grow the fruit, grow really, really close to the stem. The idea being that you can grow it as a really skinny tree, which means it's perfect for small gardens. Also, it's grafted onto a dwarfing rootstock, which means it's never going to get too big. And you can grow them in large pots, because the purpose of that dwarfing rootstock is to keep the plant smaller than your average tree. Now, that's what we've got in this box. We've got another one of these patio trees, columnar trees, but it's a different variety. These ones are Falstaff Red. They're great for my garden because they're later producing trees, which means they bloom slightly later. There's less chance of all those blooms getting killed off by a frost, and then we don't get apples. This one is Katie. That's the variety. So it's a wee present for Kate. She's got her own tree named after her almost. It's exactly the same. It's a cordon tree. It's grafted onto rootstock, dwarfing rootstock, and it's great if we want. We can grow it in a pot exactly the same as the others. But that's not happening, and that's caused a bit of a delay in how we're doing things, which is why I'm going to show you how to deal with your new tree arriving, and you can't plant it yet because you can't just leave it. So let's open it and I'll talk you through things. So this is a bare root tree, which means we've bought it and it comes as is. It's not in a pot or anything like that. It just comes with the roots wrapped, and that's to keep them with a bit of moisture in them so they don't dry out. Now, you can buy trees in pots. In fact, if you buy trees at your local garden centre, you'll probably buy them in pots. Now, here's the difference. It's much, much cheaper to buy your trees as bare roots. You probably get a bigger tree for the same price. But bare root trees, you don't want to buy these at any point during the year. These are for winter. So the idea is that this is dormant and you can now plant it where it's going to go during winter when it's dormant. If you're buying trees that are in pots, you can plant them at any time of year. But that's what we've got here. Now, obviously, we don't want to leave it like this. Just its roots and that tiny little bit of soil that's in there just to keep it moist. Even though it's dormant, that's really not good for it. But we have plans. So let me tell you the plans, and then we're going to get this planted up. So these guys are looking very different from a couple of weeks ago when you saw them and they had loads of apples on them and they looked lovely. They're now going dormant, so they're starting to drop their leaves. And you can see they're a bit bigger, a bit thicker, and they've got a few more branches on than that tree. But believe it or not, the thing with these columnar apple trees, you can actually get fruit off them sometimes in the first year, most definitely in the second year. Our trees, we had 3 big trugs of apples, and these are in their second year. It's one of the amazing things about them. Now, as you can see, they're in these big pots, and we can leave them in these big pots. and grow them that way. You just have to keep on top of the watering and feeding, because everything that little guy needs has to come from you when it's in the pot. It's a lot of work. It worked brilliantly, and I love them in front of my greenhouse. I think it looks awesome. But we've decided we're going to move them just to make life easier, and coincidentally we're moving the other trees, so that's giving us space. Hence we're going to have a third apple tree. But we're not doing that yet. That's the problem. So what do I do with the tree now then? I'm just going to put it in a pot. Let me show you. Now, I'm not putting them in one of those huge big pots because it's temporary. It's only going to be like this for a few weeks, and then we're going to actually get things planted into their final place. But if, like us, you've got a tree ready to go, but you're not ready for it yet, this is an option. So I'm going to put it in this pot. It's a reasonable sized pot because I want enough soil around it, enough of your potting mix around it to protect those roots from the cold, because it's not going to be able to get established until we put it in its new home. So this is a solution to look after the roots and protect them from winter until we get it in place. And all I'm going to do is, I've got a bucket here of potting mix I've made up. It's nothing fancy in the slightest. It's a temporary solution. So my focus is, it's some lovely compost and some vermiculite for drainage, because I don't want this getting absolutely saturated. And regular viewers know it's a very wet garden here in winter, so I want to make sure there's a lot of drainage. There are plenty of holes in the bottom of this pot too, and I will put it up on little risers off the ground so that those holes in the bottom don't get sealed. So yeah, that's the things I'm thinking about. So when it comes to the actual planting the tree in the pot, this isn't something you need to stress about. I'm going to take this tie off. Just be careful because you don't want to damage things. Sharp knife. Now, as we know, you can break a branch or even the stem on plants and they'll generally pick themselves back up and survive. But if you damage the roots, chances are it's a goner. So that's why I'm being so careful here. Now what I want to look at is, I want to look at the roots. You're going to be surprised how small they are. There we go. There we go. Now, don't panic, don't think that's a bad thing. That's fine. These are all trimmed to be sent to you. The idea being that once you plant it in spring, that's going to send out signals to this wee tree to go for it, start putting on new roots and get established. Now, why I want to do this is I want to have a look at it. I want to make sure it's looking healthy and there's no damage anywhere. That's looking great. And then I'm going to look at the roots. I want to make sure these all look good and healthy. That's brilliant. Really happy. It also lets me have a look and see size-wise, because if you look at the stem, you've got the root mass, and I want to make sure that's in the soil and covered, but I don't want to bury it so deep that this graft gets covered. Now you'll know where the graft is because it's a lumpy, weird looking bit on the stem. It's usually a bit of a bulbous bit, thicker than the rest of the stem. You don't want to cover that because you want to make sure that this top part of the tree doesn't start putting on roots, because this is the root system you're using to keep it compact and dwarfed. So you don't want to cover that graft in soil. You want to make sure it's above the soil level. So this just lets me see a rough size of how deep I need to plant it. Excellent. And then you're just planting it like you would normally. Told you this was easy. I might need some help though. Is there possibly an able assistant in the garden? Meet Katie, your tree.
Hello, Katie.
So I just I want to keep her straight, even though it's just temporary. I just want to do everything I can to make sure she's going to be fabulous. And it's kind of hard to fill it with compost while I'm trying to hold it.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So, this is the stuff that came with her. I'm going to put that in. It's just a tiny bit.
Waste not, want not.
The reason I'm putting it in is that's come from where she was grown. So it's going to have all those microorganisms in it. It's going to have the mycorrhizae fungi, all of that stuff that she's grown in and is used to. So, you know, just putting that back in so that it's like a bit of an environment she's used to.
A little bit of home.
A little bit of home. So again, now what I'm doing is I'm unsettling as much as possible because I want that potting mix to get down amongst her roots. I don't want her to be left with like an air pocket because that can actually cauterise the roots. Just to help it settle a bit. And again, I'm keeping an eye on where that graft is. When a tree's in the ground, you would do something called heel it in, which basically means you really tramp on the ground around it to firm it and get a good hold on that. It's kind of difficult to do when it's in the pot, so
Yeah.
just get in and just firm it down as much as you can because you want it to hold straight and steady. But there we go.
Ta-da!
So I've left a good inch or two at the top so that when it rains, or if for any reason we need to water it, which will not happen this winter, but you might need to, there is space for that water to then fill the pot and then drop through. But that is it. Now we're just going to put her somewhere sheltered in the garden until we've got time to get all our tree transplanting and things done. Thank you for your assistance.
You're quite welcome.
Right, okay, you guys always ask. So, Pomona Fruits, it's a UK supplier online of fruit trees and things, and that's where I got this. That's where we got our other two trees as well. So, you've seen them, you know they're good because you've seen them in my garden. But this is Katie, is the variety, and it's a cordon tree on M26 dwarfing rootstock. I'll go and find her a wee temporary home now. Oh, knees! It's another mad dash to our local hardware / garden store that you get everything in, like that you need for jobs, because with the weather we've had, all our plans to move our trees kind of got put off and put off and put off, but the ground is now defrosted and we're in a bit of a rush, so we're just going for it today. Priority is the 2 ornamental trees in the back bed getting moved to the fence bed, because those little guys wake up first. They start budding very early in the year, and we think we've only got a few weeks to get this done to give them a chance to settle and everything. And it's forecast that we're actually 6 degrees today. We've checked and the ground isn't frozen anymore. So we're going to try and get this done, but we're due for some major rain and stuff this afternoon, so we're in a rush to get it done this morning. So right at this minute, Kate is out digging holes in the bed. I'm going to get tree stakes and some compost and stuff, and then we'll have to try and get this done. Now, I actually wanted tree stakes, like the nice ones, the old-fashioned poles, but they don't have any. It's just these horrible things. But I suppose as long as they do the job. Disappointed though. 5 really rubbish tree stakes, and 2 lots of cheap as chipped compost, which is just kind of like top dressing, and 2 lots that are a John Innes number 3 mix. Oh, and I just thought I'd add that in because someone did comment recently about there is maybe a mistaken thought that a lot of the guys that make their own compost, even folk that make a lot of it, that they don't ever buy compost. I have to say, I think it would be very, very unusual for any of us that make our own compost to ever be able to make enough for everything you do. So plans then. We've got a small window of time to get some stuff done, and it's that way you're kind of jumpy. You know it's probably not sensible if you've only got like a half day, but we just feel like everything is taking so long, we can't rely on stuff. We feel like we need to get things done, so we kind of need to jump on that time best we can. So plan is like this. The starter, we need to move the 2 flowering almonds, the prunus from the back. They need to go first because they are the first trees to blossom and all that kind of thing, so they really need to get done and get settled. Once that's done, that means we can then move the apple trees into that back bed, which is part of the big plan. Because we've got the new tree and we're going to be putting 3 trees in that bed, it's going to mean we're going to have to move things around, because obviously we've been growing in this bed for years. It's got bulbs in there, it's got tubers in there, it's got perennials in there that are currently overwintering, so there's going to be a bit of organisation and shuffling around. It's an awful lot to get done before it gets rainy and windy this afternoon. So we'll just see how we go with this. A lot of this is just about being slow, careful, just feeling how you go. So Kate's moving the tree, she's not trying to break the roots, she can feel where it's tight, where it's loose, where things are. She's getting her hands in under and she's following where those roots are, because we want to damage as little as possible.
That was it.
Okay. That lets us see the wood through the hole now.
I just wiped my face with my gloves and I realised I've got mud in my gloves. I've just smeared mud all over my nose.
I've got, as I said, John Innes number 3 compost blend. It's a good one. It's got all the stuff that more established trees need to kind of keep them going. And I'm going to do the usual fish, blood and bone, all of that stuff, and prepare the holes. There's loads of schools of thought on doing this. I'm just getting the job done. Yeah. To make sure it's level. Right. Now, can we turn it? Because I'd rather it was nearer the front, if possible. How's that?
It's so much shorter when it's in this bed.
Right, you might have to take a wee walk away and check it's level
Well,
and everything.
if you do that and I'll hold it.
Can you take steps to your right? Yeah, I think that's good.
Try not to fall in the hole behind me.
Okay.
I think
Probably
that's probably
good
as far
enough,
as I'm
'cause
going
we
to
can
get it.
cut it. And it's that whole thing of making sure it's under the roots, not just on top of.
Yeah. So we've got all the soil that came out of the hole as well.
Yeah, this is just the good stuff.
So this is in contact with the
Yeah,
roots, and then
exactly.
shitty stuff can go in for anchoring. It's going to need another layer of soil, I think, once you've healed it.
That's why I didn't use it all in one go.
still moving quite a lot.
Oh, it's going to, honey. We've just taken all its stability off it.
So you could have come in behind me and got in round out.
So I've got the stake. It's completely reliant on this stake. Okay, and then we're going to put the apple trees into the back bed. They're just coming out of the pots. That should be a nice easy job. That's the plan. Yeah, and it is really threatening rain already, so oh god, let's hope we can get this finished. Two things for you then. Oh look, empty pots. Trees are no longer there. And this is the clean version of Eli, because we got everything done in that one day, or that one morning I should say, before Storm Aisha hit us, but it started hammering it down with rain and stuff. We kept working because we had to, but it meant I couldn't film, so you guys missed out on, but basically you missed out on all the swearing, the throwing tantrums, stuff just being a nightmare, and us not being happy working in the cold and the rain, and I ended up looking like this. But the job got done, so let me just take you through what you didn't get to see. Well, no, actually I won't, because that would be me taking you through me swearing and stuff. Let me show you the trees. I have to say, by this point, we were absolutely exhausted. This was harder going than, well, no, that's not true. This was actually easier to do than we thought it was going to be, but it was quite awkward. The tree didn't have really, really deep roots, but it was quite wide. And Kate had dug a deep hole that wasn't wide enough, so we had to go in and do some shuffling about, which meant moving established bulbs and all that kind of thing. And you know, Kate gets a bit nervous with that because she spent time and effort bringing these little guys on. So we shall see. So what we have to imagine now is just how good this is going to look come spring. The trees are in bloom. Those gorgeous pink kind of cherry blossom type thing. Now all the bulbs underneath. Hopefully it's going to be gorgeous. It's not going to be easy for you to actually see because they're just three very, very small, thin trees. But the two trees that were in front of the greenhouse, so those are my cordon apples. Those are the red Falstaff. That's the two on the outside. You can see the more established trees. In the centre is this very thin but incredibly straight and neat Katie tree. So there we go. So this is Kate's new apple tree. At the minute it's got a bamboo cane just helping it stabilise. It's the same thing we did when we got these two trees and we put them in the pots. We haven't proper staked these trees. We're thinking we won't have to because they are so thin. But I've got stakes just in case, because one of the things we noticed last year, it's quite windy in front of the greenhouse, and once they're laden with fruit there was a lot of movement and it did worry me. So I may stake them at a later date, we will see. Difference being, those two trees, the prunus, got moved as bare root trees, if you like. They didn't come out of a pot, so they got disturbed and the roots had to get trimmed a little bit. They're staked to try and hold them while they get a footing again. These guys come out of pots, so their root system was pot shaped, and it was a bit more protected. You can move trees that are from pots at any time of the year, although you're better doing things in winter. With bare root trees like the Katie, you want to be doing that in winter. You want to be giving them a chance when they're dormant, so they're not getting disturbed too much, not getting too much of a shock. But yeah, now it's just waiting to see. Next autumn, what's the apple harvest going to be like? That's the big thing. So I do have to give the two established trees their winter prune, which is just about getting the shape again, tidying them up, making sure there's no crossing branches, anything like that. And then we just wait and see. It's quite exciting, but also it's a bit weird when you have to wait. Yeah. And it's a bit weird because this back bed looks so bare now. It's kind of all a waiting game, but because waiting sucks, Do you want to see what the trees look like? Full of apples and glorious. Also, I'll tell you all about how you prune them to make sure you get loads of apples, because there is actually a trick to it, and I taught Kate. So, see you folks.